welcome back to the Interior Design Playbook. We have reached lesson 6 of module 1, where the focus is on creating millwork shop drawings, one of the most detailed and important parts of your documentation set. In our last lesson, we worked on sections and elevations, learning how to draft them faster and present with more clarity. Today, like I said, we're shifting to millwork. We will cover the process step by step of designing and planning a built-in TV cabinetry unit in our living room space. First, we will plan the layout, then we will draw detailed sections and elevations of the unit, and lastly, we'll add some material visual mood boards to convey our technical details as well as the overall design intent. As always, I'll be showing you how to do all of this right within Rayon Design. With its smart presets, reusable blocks, and fast drawing tools, I can create precise professional millwork drawings in a fraction of the time compared to traditional CAD tools. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to create clear, consistent, and buildable millwork shop drawings that fabricators can trust and clients can get excited about. If you'd like to follow along, please feel free to create a free account if you haven't done so already, and open up the template linked below. And if you want more personalized support, you can always book a one-on-one demo call with the Rayon team. As always, if you're finding this series useful, please like, subscribe, and comment with your takeaways. We would love to hear how you are applying this workflow to your own projects. Let's dive in. So, like I said, we're going to be diving deep into some shop drawings of this cabinetry, like this TV cabinetry unit inside our living room. And the first key question that you need to consider when designing a living room cabinetry piece is, are you going to be working with a supplier's modular system or designing a fully custom built-in? So with modular systems, the dimensions and the finishes are mostly predefined beforehand, which can really simplify the coordination. But with bespoke cabinetry and a TV unit, you get full design freedom. And that means that there's more details that we need to align early on. So we want to start by confirming the layout, style, functionality with our client, and for instance, like how much storage is needed, how the TV will be integrated, the size of the TV, whether they want features like open shelving, display niches, or hidden storage. And then we will involve the carpenter, contractor, supplier to lock in those materials and hardware and any other details that you might need to discuss. It is also the right time to coordinate with your electrical plan. So your outlets, your cable management, and even integrated lighting are accounted for from the start. And finally, like I said, the TV size is probably going to drive a lot of this unit. So we want to confirm the TV dimensions and any media equipment up front. Those are going to drive our cabinetry sizing and must be integrated precisely to avoid gaps, misalignments, or on-site modifications. And once all of those decisions are set, you are ready to begin drawing your bespoke living room unit. So I'm here in our template document, which if you have not grabbed, you can still do so by clicking the link below in the description. But we already have this drawing created. I'm just going to show you how to create the drawing from scratch. So if you are in your paper canvas, which is where kind of like all of our documentation set lives, like all of our drawings live to be presented, let's pop over to a model canvas instead of our paper canvas here. So if you're working in the same template, you can just go down to your Millwork shop drawings canvas. If not, you can just hit the plus button and add a model canvas and just rename it Millwork shop drawings, and you can work directly in there. So I'm going to pop over to this Millwork shop drawing. So in here, everything is editable, selectable, and this is kind of like where we can make all the changes in that presentation space. That's just where they are being presented. So we'll go ahead and start with our top view. That's going to drive our elevations and our sections, kind of similar to creating a floor plan that usually comes first, and then we draw our sections and elevations afterwards. So I'll just pop over here into a blank space and show you how to just start drawing this from scratch. So if you have a space in your floor plan, or you're trying to do like a little call out in your floor plan, you can always just add the floor plan in by going to the plus sign, view, and then add in your floor plan. I know that like for this specific instance, we are just going to be drawing like just a unit, and I just already have the measurements. So we're just gonna start with our guides and our line tool to start creating that drawing. To kick things off, we want to make sure that we are working on the right layer. So let's go ahead and we'll just create a new layer together. I might have a good layer to work on over here, but we'll just create a new one. So I'm just gonna say TV unit. And then underneath the TV unit, we'll do another layer for guidelines, and then another nested layer for our actual drawing. So we'll just say design. So underneath guidelines, I'm just gonna click the check mark to make that my current layer. And you can go ahead and just grab one of these lines down here, either a poly line, which would just allow you to click, 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 or a regular line, or you can even click this little arrow here and go to guideline. And what this is gonna do is this is just gonna like literally give you a straight up guideline. And you can either like copy and paste those, or if you place a guideline and you hit CC, what that's gonna do is if you click it, then you can go up or down and give it a dimension. So like if I say like 1 inch or something, it will allow me to just drop that guideline 1 inch. So this is gonna end up coming in handy for when we're creating our sections and elevations from our floor plan. When you click guideline, you can also do a vertical one. So you would just click vertical there. And if you want to like click, 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 you would just click the loop button there. But we will end up using this probably for the sections. For our floor plan, I'm probably just gonna use like a regular line. So let's go ahead and just start with, actually let's start with a rectangle. So I'll start by grabbing a rectangle down here, and I am going to just click and then drag my mouse out. Now I know that my width is going to be 13 feet, so I'll just type in 13 feet, enter. And then I know that my height is 1.5 feet, so I'll type in 1.5 feet, enter. And that will create our nice little rectangle. So we can also change the style of this. For instance, it looks a little bit thick. So let's just go down to this, and we can also talk about adjusting the style of this whole thing here shortly, but just for drawing purposes, I like to have a thinner line. So I know that all of my material, like all of the thickness of my material, whether it's like wood or whatever you're designing with, is going to be, let's just say 1 inch, just for ease of clarity. So I'm gonna draw my back panel first. So let's just assume that like the wall is over here. So I'm gonna just, again, grab my rectangle, and I just like using the rectangles when I can because these allow me to easily fill them later. So if I want to change the style or something. So for instance, I know our width needs to be 13 feet. So I'm gonna say 13 feet, enter. And then I'm gonna say 1 inch, enter, because I know that that is going to be 1 inch thick. So again, let's change our style. I'm gonna actually just use my picker and just pick right there. And now you can kind of see that a little bit better. We've got our first like backboard of the unit. So then I'm going to work on kind of like the shelves going this way. So again, I know that it is 1 inch thick. So we'll grab our rectangle, and I'm actually going to preemptively pick this so I can see it when I'm drawing. Okay, go back to my rectangle, and now I'm going to go this way. And now I know that I want my width to be 1 inch, so I'll hit enter, and I will just snap it to that. And so now I've got another little piece of, let's just say wood or something like that. So I'm gonna basically copy this a few different times. I know that I want my shelves to be about 1.5 feet apart from each other. So I can just select this and do that CC, and then click a spot and move my mouse in the direction I want it to go. And then I'm gonna say 1.5 feet, enter. And then I've just gotta click to place it. And then I can continually keep adding those. So, you know, if I know those are 1.5 feet, then this next one would probably be 3 feet because we're just doubling that. Okay, and then I have to click to enter. And then lastly, it would be 4.5 feet because I'm just adding on another 1.5 feet. So 4.5 feet, and then click. And then once you're done, just hit escape out of there or hit done. And now we've got that started over here. Now I do want to have one more of these over on this side, plus we need our little bookend. So I'm just gonna do a copy paste, dock that right there. And then same CC situation, so CC, then I'll just click, and then 1.5 feet. And then click to place it, and I'm gonna hit escape. And now we've kind of got like the basic outline of our unit. So our TV will basically be sitting in here, and let's just pop over to the already done one to kind of like reference that. So It's looking pretty similar. You can see we've got our TV right there. This one's just a little bit more stylized. We have some dimensions, and we can talk about that here in a second. So what you just saw me do was use our linework tools to outline the cabinetry. For your TV unit, there are going to be different standards based on where you live as far as like how deep you want the unit to be, how wide it should be. So just be sure that you are current on any of those dimensions. You also want to make sure that you're planning for ventilation and cable management. So these are just all things that you want to consider when you're coming up with these dimensions. So now that we have this like basic top view, let's go ahead and use those guidelines again to create our front elevation. So now we are going to go ahead and grab that guideline tool that I had mentioned and just click guideline. We want to make sure that we are on vertical, and then I also want to be on loop because I want to just be able to click, 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 click to just add them. And you'll kind of see why in a second. So I'm just going to go through here and literally just snap to each one of these. And what that's doing is that's giving me some solid guidelines to work with for our elevation that we are about to create. So if I hit done, I can see that like my section is set up for success down here because this is exactly where all the panels are going to be sitting. And then of course, when we get our TV in here and stuff too, and any rough-ins, then you can add more guidelines for that as well. So we want to just start by kind of like creating a box that's going to show this elevation. So I'm gonna, again, grab that rectangle tool, and I'm just going to select, it doesn't matter like where, vertically, I'm just going to select a point, and now we want to make sure that we have our height. So I know that this is going to be 8 feet high. Obviously I know this is going to be 13 feet wide. So I will type in 13 feet, enter, and then I will type in 8 foot 6 inches, enter, and then I'll hit done. So this is going to be basically like the elevation, like the start of our elevation. I like to just get that in there before I start drawing anything inside because it helps me just like understand it a little bit better. I like to start from the ground up. So I do like to like maybe grab my rectangle and then start with like my base down here. So obviously that's going to be 13 feet wide. So 13 feet, enter, and then our base will be 4 inches, or our toe kick would be about 4 inches. Then we will draw our like a little box for our cabinets. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool again, and we will make those about let's just say 2 feet. So we'll do 13 feet, enter as our width, and then 2 feet, enter as our height. So then when you're done with that, hit done. And you know, these guidelines that we drew are not going to necessarily impact the cabinetry down here. That'll be like a different division, but it will help with the panels up here. So that's kind of why they're just like grayed out and dashed, because they're just good for reference, but not necessarily going to help us with every single aspect of this elevation. Next up, let's say that we're going to have some sort of countertop on top of the cabinet. So again, I will grab my rectangle tool, and this one will be 13 feet wide. And then let's say 1.5 inches thick, and then hit done. And we don't really have to worry about like any of the style right now. Like we could definitely make this like a realistic style eventually. I just want to show you kind of how to start drawing these so it makes sense. Let's also do another little panel here at the top to kind of like mimic our molding. So let's say this is going to be 13 feet, enter, and then we'll say 4 inches, enter. And that will just kind of be like our little header. And then we can kind of start moving inward. So I will grab my rectangle tool again. And now I'm going to kind of start using these guidelines. I'm going to just trace these, and this is going to be the start of my panels up here. So I am just adding in my last couple of panels that way. And then next up, you can use those guidelines again to start creating divisions horizontally. So if you wanted to grab that guideline tool again and go in the horizontal, just click our guideline, click CC, and then click a point. And then if you know these are maybe going to be 1.5 foot wide by 1.5 foot tall, then you would just type in, 1.5 foot, enter, and then click, and then maybe again 3 foot, enter, and so on and so forth. So like 4.5 feet, enter. Then you can use those as your guidelines for then placing those horizontal panels. Again, the TV is going to drive some of these dimensions here. So if we know, for instance, that that's going to fit in this, lower half of this section, we can go ahead again and grab our rectangle tool and just kind of start mapping this out. So let's see here, that's 6 foot 10 inches, enter, and then what did we say, 1 inch thick? and then done. And then, you know, maybe we have another one. I'm just going to click CC, click, and then copy that up there and hit done. And it's starting to kind of like look like a TV unit. Now, when you're creating your sections, it's going to be a very similar process. So the sections are just going to basically clarify construction details. Now, this is where we might want to use our wall tool, draw in a few extra details. Sections are really helpful at showing like a base cabinet with drawers to reveal some internal mechanisms. If there's like a TV recess, this will help show like mounting depth, ventilation, wiring, shelving units. It helps explain shelf supports and other details with that. But you don't need a section of every single cabinet, just the areas where maybe like the elevation alone doesn't provide enough clarity. We really just want to make sure that we keep it clean, focused, and practical for the carpenter to understand. Because all of the tools that I have taught you here already are going to apply to your sections as well, I won't dive deep into creating a section with you, but after we kind of like add some blocks to this and stylize it a little bit, we can talk about some extra details that you can add in your sections and where to find those tools. So before we add our blocks in, feel free to just kind of keep detailing out this elevation however you want. I'm sure ours will end up looking a little bit different, but that's great. That's what it's supposed to be. So I'm just going to maybe add in another one of these. And of course we want to leave our TV area open. So we'll scrunch that down, and then we will go ahead and pop into the block library because that's where we're going to find all of our blocks. And I am already thinking about which ones I want to use. For sure want to grab a TV, and then we also want to grab some base cabinets. And then additionally, just like any other extra entourage that you might want to show. As always, you can import your own DWG or PDF files from your suppliers for, you know, the accuracy of that design intent, or you can even draw your own blocks in Rayon, but we're going to go ahead and use the block library and just edit them to our needs because they have over 10,000 blocks and usually they have what I'm looking for. So let's just go to libraries and then we'll type in TV. Looks like they've got lots of TVs and TV units, so we can just click on honestly any of these. Let's just click on this one. I'm going to click the family and it's going to show me top view, front view, and then we also have like a nice little side view for the elevation if it ends up cutting through that area. So I'm gonna just go ahead and drag this TV over into our plan and it's gonna drop it right there, and then we can just kind of dock it where we know that we need it. So this is kind of where you could again go and grab those guidelines. So down here I would just click on guideline, vertical, and then I'm just going to click here and here so that way I make sure that I place my TV correctly in elevation. So now when I drag this guy over here, I know exactly where to place it. So it'll go right there. And that's kind of how we start placing these blocks. So let's rinse and repeat that same process. I think that TV block is the only one that we need for our top view, but down here we could, like I said, use a couple of base cabinets, and then we'll just like maybe look for like a vase or like books or something to just kind of convey that these are shelves. So we'll go back over to our library and I'm just going to click on blocks here so I can just search and just type in cabinet door because that's really what we're looking for. So I can see a bunch of cabinet doors over here. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these wall cabinets. Just click on the family and then we'll just drag our elevation and drop it in here. Obviously this looks like it's probably like an upper cabinet, but just to kind of like meet my needs for this moment, I'm going to flip it vertically. So now it looks a little bit more like a lower cabinet. And then I can just always scrunch it down to fit wherever I want it to fit. I can also widen it if I want to. I can then, you know, do my copy paste situation and just copy and paste these throughout. Now remember, if there's anything that you want to edit in one of these, you just have to click edit. And like, for instance, if I don't, you know, maybe want the door swings or maybe I don't want this hardware to show, I can just delete these out of here, or I could even redraw it. And then you can see that it affects any other copies that I have in the model. So that looks like a good start down there. And then lastly, let me show you how to go find something that's more decorative. So if I just type in like vase or something, we can say vase with plant, go to family, and don't be worried when you just see like top views over here, because if you click family, it'll take you into the block and it'll show you that there's actually more views. Let's just grab this front view and then we can just go place this, you know, somewhere on a shelf to to kind of indicate that that is a shelf right there. So I've kind of finished filling out this bottom level, and I just want to show you, before we move on, how to style this drawing. So it's going to be really similar to how we did it with the floor plan. This is kind of like when things get a little bit more fun, because you can choose to go a little bit more realistic. You could choose to go a little bit more basic. Just like how we've done before, we are just essentially going to create a style and then save it. So you're either going to choose like a texture, color fill, a hatch. Once you edit and create that style, then you can apply it to anything else. So all you have to do is basically select your shapes that you have already drawn. So like for instance, we have like all of these rectangles that we've drawn. So we're just going to go over here and click on add fill. You can just make it a color, a gradient, a texture, a hatch, or even an image that you upload yourself. You know, maybe this is like a wood panel or something. And then once you decide that you like that, then we would maybe hit save style. And I'm just going to say like, you know, panel. And then what you can do is go and, you know, make any other pieces that same style by just using your eyedropper or whatever. Now, if you do want to maybe indicate like a nice hatch or something on the background of this, maybe you're doing, let's say you're doing like a fun wallpaper or something for some reason behind this. So we're going to go grab our rectangle tool and kind of like do that same thing that we've done before. And I'm going to just drop it there so I can make sure that I can still select it. But let's just say that like you want to put like wallpaper or something on the back of this wall. So this is where you would go to your add fill, go grab a texture or a wallpaper, or see if there's like some sort of, you know, fabric-y type texture that we could do in here. So yeah, like carpet, I don't know. Sure, why not? So let's put this carpet texture right here. And then what we can do is we can adjust the size of this to meet our size. And then what we'll do is we'll go over in our layers under TV unit. You're probably watching this right now thinking like, why is this lady putting carpet in a TV unit? And that's a great question. We're not sure. Okay, I'm just gonna move my guidelines up here because I forgot I drew these on guidelines. But anyway, what ends up happening is you can like select this, and then you can even make it like a little bit, you know, less opaque, and then it kind of like, it starts showing like a little bit of a texture. Like maybe you've got like some like fabric wrapped wall panel or something behind there. I personally, I'm a very like realistic visual girl. So I like to try to like add in those, like those little pieces of realism when I can. And then again, with these, you know, if you wanted to go back and edit this style, and maybe you want this to be like a fill instead, because we want to indicate that these are going to be wood, or maybe let's just make them wood. Might as well. Let's just do it. So let's go here, and then I'm going to go look for just like some sort of wood texture. Here we go. Wood. You know, you can do that same thing for these wall cabinets as well. And then for this, countertop, and then, you know, if you want to draw in your shadows, you can use rectangles for that as well. Let's go ahead and pop back over to our finalized drawing, and you can see here this is a little bit more of like a basic representation, but we've also added in our dimensions. We've got a top view with our top view of our monitor, and then over here in elevation, you know, this is indicating all of these cabinet doors. We've got a couple of little like entourage pieces just to kind of help show scale. If you want to show more details about like the TV mount installation, this would be a good place to add notes as well. And if you'll remember from past lessons, to add notes, you just grab that little leader line and then click add. As with everything, you would, you know, do it and then adjust your style, or pick another style that you've already created in your file. Now you can see here too that we have added some more details on like the walls and the floors. So in order to do that, and that's really similar with this section over here too that I was going to show you in a second, is you're just going to use the wall tool. So similar to how we did those elevations and sections in the last lesson, we're just going to grab our wall tool. Now you just want to make sure that once you do, enter, you either create a new wall type or edit an old wall type or something like that. I am going to go ahead and you can just say detach style. And then, you know, for your thickness, maybe you have like this concrete floor, which is a little bit thicker. So maybe that needs to be like 12 inches thick or something like that. And so that's how you start to do that. And then if you wanted to, again, have like a fill or something like that to indicate concrete, that's just everything that we've learned so far. You're just like rinse and repeating all of that. So, and then same goes here for the vertical walls as well. You can see like all this section stuff is the same kind of thing that we've already done. This is also a good thing to note for your sections when you're creating your sections after you've created your elevations. Super helpful, again, to grab those guidelines down here. So if you go to your guidelines and then horizontal, you can see that if you just start placing those, that really helps drive what you're cutting through in your section. Like it eliminates the guesswork, and it just kind of like make sure that everything is aligned. Before we move into our mood board, I do want to just show you a couple of quick like annotation tools that you can use for sections like this. So for instance, you can see like these little cut throughs here, and then these little break lines. Let me just show you how to find those in the block library. So back over here to our library, I'm going to go to title blocks and annotations. And here is where you can either like search for, you know, section or break line or something like that. And you'll see all this goodness pop up here, and you can easily just drag and drop that into your project. You might need to rescale it a little bit. Like this looks a little bit small, so we would just rescale that. These are kind of like typical annotations that you would use in a section to kind of just identify that, like, okay, that's where this section is cut, or that's where, you know, we're not looking any further in that wall section. It's just we're cutting it right there. So that's a typical symbol to show. And then also with these little section cuts as well, you can also just draw your own, like just use your own lines if you can't find anything that you like, or again, import your own as well. Now, moving on to the mood board, this is kind of like where we bring the design to life. We're going to just add a couple of visuals to show the look and feel of the different materials that we've chosen for this specific space. You want to include your material samples like the finish, hardware, etc. Show the hardware style and add your appliance references. You can also include photos of like any other units online, like maybe inspiration photos from Pinterest or something. Anything that's going to help communicate the style and ambiance that you are aiming for. This is especially helpful if you are working with clients who might not be able to like read actual plans, even if it's just like a floor plan, a section, an elevation. Maybe they can't read those super easily. So it just helps to kind of like align your expectations, and then you get buy-in from everyone. So with Rayon, we've already seen this with our lighting lesson, our electrical lesson, but in Rayon, you can easily drop your images directly into your page, and then we can use AI to either remove the background or upscale it. And so I will show you how to do that real quick using an image from Pinterest. So here's an image that I found on Pinterest that I really like. So I'm just going to right click it and copy, and then we'll go back into our Rayon design canvas, and I'm just going to click paste. So let's just go back over to a blank space, and we can just right click and paste. And that's just going to bring our, you know, inspiration image right in here. Now, if you did want to upscale this, you can go to edit image, and then you can click upscale. Also, if you want to like kind of create a little collage of items, you can always hit remove background, and then what that's going to do is that's going to like automatically remove the background. You don't have to use any other tools like Photoshop or anything to do that. So let me just show you how to bring something like that in. So let's just say that I found this piece of hardware that I really like, and I'm just going to copy it and bring it in. I will go ahead and right click and paste. And now if we want to kind of like create a little collage or something, obviously that's a little bit obnoxious that it's got like the white background on it. So we'll just go ahead and go down to edit image and then remove background, and we will let AI do the work for us. And once that is removed, we'll hit done. And then you can see that I can just, it kind of like turns it into a PNG almost, and then I can just like move it anywhere and just kind of stack it on top of anything. So to wrap things up, I'm back in my presentation space, and as always, I'm going to show you how to place all of this on a sheet of its own. So we will just create a whole new page over here under layers. I'm going to say new page, and it's dropped us a new page. We are using A3 in this demo model, so I'm going to just go to A3, and then once that's placed, we can go ahead and add in a view. So we'll go to layers, view, and then we'll go to Millwork shop drawings. And what that's doing is that's basically just placing a view of some random area of that canvas, which is totally fine because we can go to override and then go in here and just kind of like pan to where we want. So let's just go zoom in to this little area that we've kind of already set up with all of our complete drawings. You can choose whichever scale you like over here. So it's going to be different for everyone, but I'd say like 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch is pretty typical. Once you get it to the size that you want, then you would just click done out here, and then we'll hold down our command key and just kind of scrunch this in. So that way we only see what we want to see here, nothing else on that sheet. And then we'll get it placed wherever. You can always add in your title block. If you just wanted to do, 1 or 2, or just like, a top view or something, then you can do that same thing. Just hold down your command and like, you can make this a bigger scale. And that is essentially how you would get all these on their own sheet. Lastly, as always, if you are ready to export, you can just go to share, or over here under like the hamburger menu, you would just go to export. And then you can either do image or PDF. And then either do all of your pages, just one of your pages, and that will export whichever views you have selected to PDF, and they will be ready to present. That wraps up lesson 6 of the interior design playbook. You have now seen how to plan a living room, integral cabinetry and TV unit, draft millwork elevations and sections, and even pull together a visual mood board so your shop drawings can convey not only the design intent, but the technical aspects as well. With Rayon Design, these workflows don't just become faster, but more consistent and professional, giving you drawings that fabricators and clients actually understand. In our next lesson, we will build on this foundation and move into one of the key aspects of interior design, how to streamline your schedules and FF&E sheets. As always, if you'd like to practice what we learned today, just go ahead and open up that free template linked below and give it a try. And if you want more personalized guidance, you can book a one-on-one demo call with the Rayon team anytime. If you found this lesson helpful, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment with your takeaways so we can hear how you're applying these workflows to your own projects. See you in the next lesson.